Hello, I'm Cassandra Dawson. This is the second podcast of my novel, Veil Walkers, a West Virginian Haint. I didn't use any AI to make this, folks. Just some good old-fashioned writing and reading by a West Virginian. Chapter 3. Astrid and Keegan made it to the top of the hill and stopped. Two homesteads lay before them, one on each side, sharing a fenced-in garden space while the livestock wandered around freely. Two women spoke near the gated entrance to the garden. The dark-haired woman, with a cloth tied over her hair that matched her ankle-length dress, saw them first. The other, a shorter woman in a drab-colored dress, put her hands on her hips and glared. "We ain't got nothing for freeloaders. You just move along," the shorter woman said. She pulled a dish towel from her shoulder and waved it at them for added effect. "Now, Catherine, that ain't no way to treat strangers. We gotta at least offer 'em dinner before we throw 'em out." Catherine scowled. "Fine. Have some leftover biscuits before I give them to the chickens. Then get out." The dark-haired woman sighed. "Please forgive her. She had a farmhand make off with two of her goats a few days ago. I'm Mary." "Don't tell them who you are." Catherine elbowed her hard. "Next thing you know, they'll be asking for work." Keegan ran a hand through his coppery hair and did his best to mimic the Appalachian accent. "Actually, that is why we've come. Just looking for a place for a while and willing to do chores in exchange for food and a place to sleep." Mary stopped what she was about to say. She crossed to them and looked them up and down, meeting Keegan's light brown eyes. "You look sturdy enough. I need firewood chopped and stacked for winter." She looked at Astrid then, eyeing her skin tone and honey brown eyes. "Looks like you got a bit of native in you, girl. You gonna cause trouble?" "No, ma'am," Astrid answered. "At least she's got manners," Catherine chimed in. "Reckon the fella does, too." Mary turned and gave Catherine a hard look, then turned back to Astrid. "Garden needs tending. Start with thinning the corn and getting the feelers off the tomatoes. Then come find me, and I'll see what your worth is." She took a deep breath and addressed them both. "I don't want no trouble out of you. I know how many headed goats I've got, and how many chickens and ducks, too. You can sleep in the livestock maternity barn. We've got 2 extra stalls in there and plenty of hay. Dinner's at dusk and breakfast's at dawn." They both nodded. Mary crossed her arms. "Well, get to work. I'll see you in a few hours." Catherine scoffed, lifted a basket that was by her feet, and opened it. She offered each of them one of the aforementioned day-old biscuits that she had intended for her chickens. "Here, eat up. Then you'd best be listening to Mary. I don't take no bull, and I ain't afraid to dish it out either. You hurt Mary, and I'll find you." "You can't even find the guy who took off with your goats," Mary answered. She turned her attention to them. "What's your names?" Astrid smiled. "I'm Emily. This is Thomas." The names they always used in this time frame. They helped them fit in as locals and reduced annoying questions. "Right then, Thomas, the woodpile's that way." She nodded her head toward the small house. "Emily, you come with me. The garden plots are shared to save on fencing. I'll show you which beds are mine." Astrid nodded. She exchanged looks with Keegan that they both understood as "keep an earshot," then turned to their assigned jobs. Chapter 4. Namid stood on the far side of the gravel road from the general store, leaning against a tree. The best way to avoid being found is to look like you belong, after all. He chewed on a piece of straw, arms folded, hair pulled up in a way that hid the blue beaded braids. He watched the store and the surrounding people. The store seemed to serve as a trading post, meeting hall, pawn shop, and post office. There was a post to hitch horses to, of course, but the farrier on site was a surprise to Namid. The people who came brought as much produce as coin. The shop owner bought what he could make a profit from and turned the rest away. Namid stood quietly and observed, chewing on a piece of straw and looking for all the world like a man waiting for someone. A wagon came from his left, clattering against the rough gravel and the ruts of the otherwise muddy attempt at a road. Pulled by only one horse, with two goats tethered by the neck behind, the wagon approached at a leisurely pace and pulled into a waiting spot. The driver, a skinny man with curly brown hair and a subtle flash in his eyes as he turned, hopped down, tied off the reins, and glanced back to check the goats. Pleased, the man nodded to himself and ventured toward the store entrance. It wasn't the goats that caught Namid's attention. It was the man's eyes. The man was a demon, one who passed almost perfectly in the human world. Even Namid almost hadn't spotted it, the subtle red glint in the man's eyes as he turned in the light. Namid closed his eyes for a moment. A brief concentration, a gathering of his energy, and he opened them once more. The world looked warped, shimmering and colorful as he gazed out, looking not for the mundane, but for that which wasn't seen. Auras of people and animals nearby showed in happy shades of greens, purples, and blues. A few benign spirits lingered, curious day visitors who would head back to the Vale when night fell, all completely normal. But the man stood out. His aura was dark, with deep reds and oranges reminiscent of flames, wreathing a black core. This man hadn't kidnapped a random stranger's body as most demons do. He made himself into the man, which was itself a declaration of his power. Just as the demon reached the door, he stopped and turned, looking right at Namid. Warrior recognized warrior. Knowing the other was present changed the game. The demon grinned and nodded at Namid tauntingly, then turned back to his business and entered the store. Namid didn't move. He closed off his ability as easily as he had turned it on. The normal world greeted him again, with nothing except the shop cat any the wiser. He waited and listened. In the shop, nothing out of the ordinary happened. He saw the demon waiting in line within, patient behind an elderly woman with a basket of eggs. The woman haggled. The shop owner unloaded the eggs and handed the woman something paper-wrapped in exchange, probably cured meat. The woman left the store, and the demon approached the counter. Namid tensed. Over 20 people lingered nearby, some shopping, some gossiping, one getting shoes put on his horse. If the demon acted now, he could wipe out half the population of the area. Or worse, it could force battle in front of witnesses. Witnesses made the timeline messy. The demon approached the counter, leaned against it, and started haggling over something. His voice didn't carry. It didn't need to. He wasn't putting any actual effort into the persuasion. Just a typical farmer conducting typical business. Until the shop owner lifted the hinged counter, stepped out, and led the demon back to the porch. They descended the stairs, approached the wagon, and the shop owner frowned and crossed his arms. "These are Miss Catherine's goats," the man said calmly. "No, they aren't, Gideon." The demon's accent was completely out of place for the area. "Yes, they are. She notches their ears just like this when they're born," Gideon answered, touching one ear. "Besides, she's already come and told us to look for them." Namid finally righted himself from leaning against the tree. He wasn't the only one. Around the yard, several other men looked up. The demon cast a glare at them, his eyes lingering on Namid, and his message clear. Don't turn this into a scene, or it would become a legendary one. The demon looked back at Gideon. "Look, do you want to buy them or not?" The other men approached as Gideon continued talking. "We don't buy from thieves. Now you'd best be leaving the wagon and the goats and seeing yourself out of this holla before nightfall." The demon glared at him, then raised his gaze to the increasing number of men and women who converged at his location. It hesitated for a long moment, then turned, pointed at Namid, and shouted, "You said everything to be okay. This is your fault." The demon put just enough energy into those words to persuade everyone to believe them. Those in the yard turned toward Namid, their ire transferring immediately thanks to the demonic influence. The creature gave the Veil Walker a creepy, tooth-filled smile, turned, and casually walked away. From the corner of his eye, Namid saw the demon vanish without even a trace of dramatic effect. Great. A teleporter. How much worse could this mission get? Chapter 5. The axe cracked the wood in two with a satisfying snap. Keegan stopped to wipe his brow and looked over the farm and the forest beyond. Just past the bramble line, that steep drop-off made it feel as if the world simply ended. Namid, whom he considered a brother, was somewhere down that mountain, and a bad feeling stirred in Keegan that he didn't like. He also didn't like the pain in his hands. Keegan looked down at the fluid-filled blisters and cringed. He had no problems strength-wise wielding the axe, but the handle was rough wood, and his palms weren't quite up to the challenge. Keegan knew that without Astrid's help, he couldn't keep going. He sank the axe into a chunk of wood, stacked what he had just chopped, and headed for the garden. He found Astrid kneeling beside the tomatoes, separating little feelers from the parent vines. She looked up as he approached, and wiped her regrettably stained hands on her skirt. That green would need serious laundering later. "Hey, Thomas," she said as she rose, using his mission name. "Everything okay?" He nodded, eyes scanning the area behind her. "Yeah, got a lot of wood split and stacked. More than I thought." The way he looked around told Astrid more than words ever could. He needed her help, and she understood. She looked around behind him and gave the slightest nod. The coast was clear. Keegan held out his hands, palms up. He looked at them, then up at her. Astrid made a soundless "ah" and glanced down at the damage. "They haven't popped yet," she whispered as a soft pink glow emerged from her hands. She placed her hands atop his, and the healing energy spread. It always felt a little weird. Keegan took a deep breath to keep himself from making a face. "I know," Astrid whispered. "It'll only be a second more." A few more breaths, and Astrid released his hands. "There, good as new," she teased, running a finger along the 300-year-old scar on his palm where he had slipped while slicing an avocado. "Thank you," he whispered, and turned back toward the woodpile on the far side of the farm. Astrid watched him go, then steadied herself as a wave of panic passed through her. Her head snapped toward the east, where the panic led her thoughts. Thanks to her deep bond with her husband, they always knew where the other was, and powerful emotions passed between them. Namid could handle himself, but she still worried. One man against a demon? No problem. Her somewhat awkward First Nations husband and a crowd of time-locked locals? Potentially a situation. "Odin be with him," she whispered, then knelt to the tomatoes again. Thank you for listening. Check out the playlist for the next section of my novel, and come back again soon.